Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my site, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. Now, for some really exciting news, as you know, we are working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes. Well, here's the thing. There are thousands of shows available to listen to in all sorts of different categories, and they only rank the top 250 shows. Now, not only do we sit in the top 250 on a regular basis, and not only did we rank number 11 just a couple of weeks ago, but this past week, I am really excited and grateful to be able to share that the Mindshare Podcast hit number 8 on the iTunes charts for business and marketing. I am absolutely pumped, and I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you seeing the value and enjoying the show enough to keep coming back, and for helping us build mindshare by spreading the word about the show. Now, if you haven't yet and would like to be a part of it, of this Mindshare 101 wave that's rolling through, please take 2 minutes, go to iTunes, leave us a nice 5-star rating, give us a review. It really is that easy. And please let me say thank you in advance. Today's episode is number 132. After getting up at the crack of stupid for most of her adult life, she now lives with her husband Rob on Vancouver Island after leaving the CHFI morning show in December 2016. Her retirement from morning radio came approximately 18 months after their only child, beloved 24-year-old daughter Lauren, died in her sleep of unknown causes in May 2015. One day after celebrating her first Mother's Day. Well, she then returned to work 1 month later and continued to host the CHFI morning show until December 2016. After being approached by HarperCollins to write a book telling of her experience with grief, she spent much of the next 2 years at her laptop. Her memoir, Mourning Has Broken, Love, Loss, and Reclaiming Joy, was released in February of 2019 to critical acclaim and became a bestseller, finishing the year in the top 10 for nonfiction. In 2020, she was named to the Canadian Music and Broadcast Industry Hall of Fame. She appears regularly at various public events across the country, both as MC and delivering her keynote address, Reclaiming Joy. Born in Edmonton, Alberta, she did a lot of moving around growing up, and over her time, she had been the first female co-host in the powerful Detroit market. With considerable television experience, her lifestyle and wellness program, which could be seen in over 2 million homes in southern Ontario, received an award in its second season as Canada's best cable talk show. Her charitable works are numerous. She was a regular participant in the Easter Seals Telethon on CBC Television and is also a staunch supporter of Markham Stouffville Hospital, for which she has hosted fundraising events for some 30 years. She's been saluted by the Empire Club, Variety Club, and Toastmasters International for her public service work and received a Paul Harris Fellowship from the Rotary Club in recognition of her public service. In 2008, the first Erin Davis Women in Media Bursary was awarded to a student at her alma mater, Loyalist College. This annual award was established by her and her family in part to recognize and assist promising media students. She writes an internet journal twice weekly, available at erindavis.com. Her journal receives some 5,000 visits each week. She's also the host of Korea's Real Time podcast, which is dedicated to sparking conversations with aspiring people about all things Canadian real estate and what impacts realtors and Canadians. And she's also launching her new podcast called Drift, which is about her favorite topic, sleep. This week on the show, I am incredibly excited to be joined by longtime radio and television host, podcast host, and best-selling author, the one and only Erin Davis. Erin, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction, and congratulations on your rankings, David. That's considerable. As you say, there are a sea of podcasts out there, and it's like American Airlines would say, we know you have your choice of airlines. Thank you for choosing to fly with us. So that's pretty cool. Good for you.
You know what? Thank you. And I appreciate that. It is very cool, and it's funny because oftentimes a lot of people will bask in the glory of like hitting number one or being the best or winning the gold medal. I'm looking at this thinking, even to crack the top 10 in such a busy place. We're excited about this. We're very excited.
Yeah, no kidding. Good for you. Good for you.
Here's the thing. It's great to have you here today. And today
I'm loving being in your wine cellar, by the way. Are we going to get a tour of the rest of the bottles?
Not on air, but maybe another time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go on.
It's good.
I do.
So here's the deal. Today, as I titled it and kind of dug into, not just who you are, but what you're about and sort of a lot of the things that you got going on now. We kind of looked at today's title around how to achieve the success you want, no matter what you face. And reading through your bio, there was a lot there. And I really want to open up with this because this may seem like totally obvious, but I've got to ask. And in fact, I'm very interested because it certainly is something that I don't get enough of. Why is sleep your favorite topic?
Because I never got enough of it. I think it's why, some people are obsessed with sex. My whole life was built around it. Just some, yeah. My whole life was built around sleep. During my career, getting up at like 3 a.m. or whatever ungodly time, it was always like, okay, when can I get my nap in? I've got to get a solid 2 hours or whatever so that I could function as a human being and a mom and a wife and being out there publicly until hopefully 9, 10 at night. But always, when am I getting back to bed was on my mind. So on weekends, I was one of the few who could flip my clock around and just sleep. I was lucky. But sleep has always been my passion. And again, it's something I never got enough of. And now, with COVID having happened and going on, of course, and you get to an age where sleep doesn't come as easily. And also my brain just won't shut down at night. I quite literally, David, would lie awake at night going, you've got to do sleep stories. And sometimes you have to listen to the universe or just, to hit your head against the wall. So I don't have a wall like yours, unfortunately. I just have a painting. So I decided, okay, I'm going to listen to that voice. And it has become a reality, as so many dreams do.
Well, I mean, did you ever just try counting sheep? I mean, sometimes that seems to work.
You know what? My trick has been saying the Hail Mary in French or going ZYXWVUTST, doing the alphabet backwards.
Do that whole thing backwards?
Yeah, I can. Not right now. I'm under pressure, but I'll tell you when my head hits the pillow, I sure can. ONMLK, J. Anyway. So yeah, I tried everything. Melatonin left me with a hangover. Tryptophan is great. It's natural. Even, prescriptions. But what I really love, and this has been the whole thread through my career, and my husband will tell you this too. At nighttime, I would say, tell me a story. Like, tell me something that happened in hockey today or in your life or whatever. And it would just kind of calm me down. And a lot of his stories would put me to sleep, but that was the point.
I was about to say, I think he's there, like he's listening to us right now.
Yeah, he is. He's running my little background slideshow here because this is the first time that I've done pictures to go with a podcast. I do them to go with my Keynote. I do them to go with my blog, but I've never done them like this. So you're special.
Well, Rob,
anyway,
thank you for the help. And
David says thank you. So what I wanted was stories that would, let people just kind of, some are familiar, some of them are from Grimm's fairy tales, which really are grim. Don't even want to talk about Hansel and Gretel and stuff, but I've done twists on a lot of old favorites, and I've written a few myself that are about signs and dimes and things to get people through grief, and some of them are travel stories or classics like Benjamin Button, things like that. So it's stories. There's a whole compendium to it that is just very brief interviews called Catch My Drift, because the podcast is called Drift. And so it is all about sleep, and hopefully something that people will want to enjoy.
Well, I think so as well. Now it's is it live just yet?
Well, here's the thing. When you're dealing with a great big company like Apple, you're on their timeline, of course, which is fine by me. But they want to get all the glitches out, or bugs or worms, whatever Apple has. And it was supposed to launch last week, but they're still kind of fixing things. And I am so good with that, because I'd rather that than people, go on, and it's free wherever you get your podcasts. But if they decide to buy the premium pack, and then find that there are, glitches or something. Mm-hmm. My demographic, which is slightly older than yours, isn't going to keep trying things 4 and 5 times. Yeah. It's going to be like, I don't get this. I'm not doing it. So we're going to make sure that it's perfect, and it should be up within the next week or so. I'm excited.
When we talk about technology, we talk about the user experience. It's very similar in business. We talk about the relationship and the client experience, right? But, on this topic of sleep, I'm curious to know, because we talk about this when we talk strategy, again, business. There's that whole thing of early bird gets the worm. But then you got what I might argue saying, like, folks like us that almost like fall into both baskets. You got the night owl, you got the early bird. Just curious. I mean, you having gotten up as early as you have and doing what you've done over the years, do you find that one is better than the other? One is right, one is wrong? And I bring that up because we do have people that, in the business we're in, they'll sleep in a little bit, but they will work all hours of the night, or they'll get up early, but they can't hack it later on. And people wonder, like, should I be part of the 5 a.m. club? Because if I'm not, it's like those guys are way above me. But are they really? What's your take on that?
That is a good question. And I think that now that we're no longer a 9-to-5 society, I think you do what works for you. I totally believe that. Here on the West Coast, of course, I have to say to people like yourself, okay, I can't do it before 1 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. I just can't. I want to be awake. I want to be caffeinated. And I want to be the best that I can be. I will, of course. I've gotten up at 4 a.m. to host events that were live, at 9 in the East. So I will do that. I get out of bed for money.
Yeah. But, you too. We do have a few things in common.
Funny, but what works for me won't work for everybody. I mean, I live near an airport here in Victoria. And there are helicopters at 11 p.m. But for the most part, all the casual and the fun flyers have put their little planes away for the night, which is great. Mm-hmm. So we'll finish our evening, my husband and I, and go to bed angry at the Leafs. Thank God that's over.
Why did we have to bring that up today?
And then
I was so focused on our conversation.
I know, right?
And you just...
I know. Be here now, Zen. Yeah. So then, he'll go to bed at 10:30, leave a small light on for me, and I'll toddle in at about 1 a.m. after I've recorded and done a first run through on an edit on a story, because that's when I record them, is when it's quiet. I love to record at night because it feels like a sleep story. And so we're not all on that 9-to-5 world, but the problem is most of the world is, David. And as a serial napper, as I was for my 30 years of getting up at 3 a.m., nobody cares. Not the woman who vacuums in her high heels at 10 o'clock at night, who's just gotten home from work. Not the road crew working down on Bloor Street with the trucks constantly beeping and backing up. Not the maintenance person vacuuming in the hallway. Nobody cares. Get yourself good earplugs. That's all I got for living, so out of sync with the rest of the world.
So really, it's about how you operate and making sure you get done what you need to get done in a day.
Truly. And, people want to have time with their family, and you've got to make that happen. And so once the kids are to bed, or the rest of the house has settled down, maybe that is when you hunker down with your laptop and get the listings updated, or find out what has happened in the market that day, or whatever it else that is that you have to do in order to catch up and keep up. So you just do what works for you, but try and do it in a healthy way so that you get those hours. Let your Fitbit keep track of how many hours of sleep you get, and pay attention to it.
Do you think there's a specific number of hours of sleep people should be getting? I mean, we talk about, you need 7 or you need 8. I'm lucky. Like, I get excited when I see 5.
Are you kidding me? God. Yeah, but David, you're 22. Take a look at yourself. I'm just saying, it's not working for you.
You could come back anytime.
Yeah, you know
22.
Yeah. Well, metric, but
I'll take it.
okay. My sweet spot is 8. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. I can do with 6 or 7, but after a few days of that, I start to get run down. So it all depends. And the more active you are in the day, the better you sleep. It's just a fact. It's great, you know.
100%. Now, what about morning routine then? Because I'll tell you, for me, like you mentioned about caffeinated, you mentioned about that, and naturally caffeinated is one of the things that a lot of people go for. But for me, living in a day and age of tech the way we are, and the fact of COVID and everything else, this thing right here has become the window to the world. And because of that, it's the first thing that people pick up in the morning. It's the last thing that people put down at night. And a lot of our, regular listeners know, I say this a lot, but I don't look at that thing for the first probably hour and a half of my day. I don't even want to know from that phone. I'll open up the laptop. I'll look at the schedule. I'll put my, and I don't read a book, paper book. I'll put it in my ear and listen to it, but I'll do my book. I'll get my vitamin D. I'll get my hydration, but I'm not going near that stuff because I don't want to know what the world is saying yet. I got to get myself right. I'm wondering for you, again, with this, you wake up early, you wake up later, whatever, crazy schedules. Is there a certain routine that you would go by that said, this is how I got out and I just got to full bore, like first thing in the morning?
Wow. Well, first off, I think that is remarkable restraint not to open up the Pandora's box that is in your hand. And I think that is wonderful because that can so set the tone for the day. And I think during the past 4 years of waiting and watching and trying to keep calm about what was happening south of our border, that was just my instant stress, just immediately, what's going on, what's happening. And now we have so many devices, so many ways in which we can wake up more gently. If I say, good morning, Google, Google will tell me the time, the temperature, everything I used to do for a living. And then, here's the latest news from CBC or from CTV or MSNBC Tech or whatever. So that is available when I want it. Again, I salute you for choosing carefully what you allow in, because we shouldn't. If someone came into our room banging a pot and pans, tearing open the curtains, you'd say, get out now before I lock and load. But that's exactly what your phone is doing. And sometimes before I even have 2 eyes open, I'm, putting things in junk files, putting things in trash. And I'm thinking, be careful. What did you just delete? And don't answer. Whatever you do before you've metaphorically put your feet on the floor, metaphorically, don't answer anybody, especially if it seems like you're being defensive. So that is great. And I would like to do that. We are in constant contact with a family member, so I have to check it right away, but I don't have to go to Twitter. I need to stop that. I'm going to be more like you.
I challenge you to do anything but pick up the phone and watch email or social media in the morning. Mark last week was on the show, guest Mark Ferris. He was on the show and he said, I look at my phone as a landmine. And I went, oh my God, true. I love that. Right? Because he goes, you go near it, you have no idea what could come at you. What notifications, what messages, emails, what you don't know what's sitting there waiting for you that could throw you right off to left field. Now, I've been sort of practicing my routine for some time now, a couple of years for sure, maybe longer. And it's exactly that. It's because I would wake up and I want to get into this topic of like mindset in a little bit, but I would get up and I would look at it and I see, what is a competitor doing? Oh my God, what am I not doing? Or what's going on out there that I'm not aware of? Oh my God, why did that happen? Or why are they doing this? Or why didn't somebody do that for me? Or boom, I haven't even started my day and I'm already out in like left field. It was not a good way to operate. And that's exactly why I restrain. So I challenge you and I challenge everybody tuned in, and I do this often.
No.
Don't pick up your phone first thing in the morning. Go put it on the other side of the room if you have to, just so you have to actually get your bum out of bed to go get it. But before you grab that, grab your water. Go open up the blinds, see what it's like outside. It's feed your brain. We talk about caffeine, we talk about eating. Feed the brain. Start reading a book. It's
absolutely.
It's positive.
Another good one is waking up and doing a meditation right away. And there are so many apps for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
But it's better than seeing the noise of the craziness, right? Checking what happened down there. Oh my God, why are they doing it? Again, we start to wheel, right?
Right. Now this also, and I'm going to sound like I'm defending myself, and I no longer have to do this. So your idea is absolutely a solid one, is that this was my show prep. I would wake up early, go straight into whatever was trending, whatever was happening, and then start, okay, I'm going to talk about this. This is what I think about this. This is an interesting way of looking at this, and start sending it to myself in my email, because that was my show content. Right. And so last thing at night, first thing in the morning, I was just totally immersed in what's happening now, because in radio, your knowledge has to be a mile wide and about an inch deep. But make sure you don't find a way to drown in that inch. Because
that's interesting. Okay.
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's a good little tip.
Because it's true. It's true. And unless you're, fortunate enough to have a team of producers who are feeding you every interview, every question, every topic, and here's your format, we would just go in and just hit the ground running and basically not know what that day was going to hold. So it was all building all 24 hours, that the ones that I wasn't sleeping, I was thinking or dreaming about it. So it was all encompassing. And that's why I love sleep now.
You know what? I
still dream about work.
I get it. And I would say in that same breath there, we look and say you were doing it as a byproduct to what you actually do, what your even role in our society for all of us was for so many years. And we need you to almost be doing that so that you can deliver it, because you had that stage. So actually that takes me into this, and I was curious.
Okay.
However you figured out that you wanted to get into radio and television, you did know that you wanted to do it. How did you get your start? Like that big break? And I guess where I'm trying to go with this one is like, you got people coming up in business, any business for that matter, who are aspiring to get to their next level. And we often talk about the fact that relationships are important and the things that you do are important. But, sometimes it's a little bit of luck. Oftentimes it's a lot of hard work. And then there's like little things that happen in between. I'm curious, what might have been those little things, or maybe that big thing that you did to sort of get to where you've gotten to?
Well, Oprah said a long time ago that luck is preparation meets timing. And by the time I was prepared, and I really did, like I got my first job, my 3 months into being in college in radio. So I was ready from the jump. But when the bigger breaks happen, like when I moved to Windsor and they decided to change their morning show on CKLW on the Big 8 to a male-female, I was the female who was not only there, but had proven myself and was ready. And this was a time when men and women were starting to be, programmers were going, hey, maybe the morning show should reflect who's listening, like who's around that proverbial breakfast table, who's driving together to get the kids to school and off to work. So that was my big break, was coming around in the mid to late 80s at a time when radio was coming around to the realization that women could do more than recipes and baby announcements and the other kind of pink, ghettos, I think is the word that were used at the time. And that women were shoved into traffic reporter. My niche was news. So I got my foot in the door doing news. And then people went, no, we'll get someone else to do the news. You're going to co-host and eventually host. So that was my big break, was my timing, but being ready for it was the making of my big break, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes complete sense. It's that preparation. It's all the stuff that we do in the background. It's like, I might parallel this and say for some athlete that just broke into like the NHL. I mean, look, they were a superstar in many, many different leagues. It's just that now everybody all of a sudden knows who they are, but there was a lot of, like, they didn't just come out of left field. There's a lot of.
Yeah. Look at Jack Campbell. Campbell was, he did the work forever and ever. And then he got to show that he was amazing, not superhuman like Carey Price, but he was fantastic. And he did the work for all those years. He did the work.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it.
Back to the Leafs.
I know. Why did you have to do that to me?
I'm sorry.
You rolled in here as I asked about the big break. You brought up the fact that you're a woman. And not that that's some big surprise to us, but I did want to ask you about that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. Jeepers.
And seriously,
oof.
Women in business has been a theme over the past number of years. It is a big topic. We talk about equality in the workplace. And when we look back to that, I mean, not only like women getting into the biz, but in Detroit or Windsor, never mind, like a tough city to start breaking into. But What I'm curious, how far do you feel that we've come since then? Knowing that you were actually in those shoes, experienced it firsthand, we're still here, you're still a leader out there for everybody. That whole momentum moving forward when it comes to equality in the workforce, like no matter what job it is, what message can we deliver to people, or what do we think has changed? Like just to be able to touch on this today.
Oh, it's such a big topic with so many facets. I mean, if you look at the real estate industry, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but there are more female realtors than men, or at least very close. If not, I don't know the exact numbers.
I would tell you there's some absolutely amazing women in this industry. That are doing some
and men too.
Let's not forget the men. Absolutely. I mean, whatever.
Some of my best friends are men. I married one. Anyway, no, I hear what you're saying. I'm being glib, but yeah, it's a struggle, and it will always be a struggle because of our additional role. Now, that's not to say that men do not take on the primary parenting role. That happened in our marriage. Okay, my husband was Mr. Mom because that was the movie from like 8 years earlier or something. So he was still a lot of a novelty. But you need a woman who is going to fulfill herself in whatever way she feels that is. And if it includes having a family and having children, there is no having it all. That is my truth, is that you cannot have it all without a massive support system. Yes. Or even just that one person who is there for you. And it doesn't matter who it is, but you need to have someone there. You can't do it alone. And Brené Brown, who is an amazing awesome. Doctor of on shame and vulnerability, will tell you that the strongest thing you can do is to reach out and say, I need help. There is such courage in vulnerability. And I'll tell you, if I had said to my husband, nope, I'm going to do this alone. No, I never, ever would have made it because I needed his support. We needed it as a family unit. He gave up his career because he saw that mine was on a higher trajectory. He had the backbone, the self-confidence, the he didn't have that frail male ego where he could say, you know what, you're doing this. And if they call me Mr. Davis while they're taking me to the best table in the restaurant, I'm fine with that. Yeah. He kept it all in perspective. And so it's not going to change until we understand that taking time off to raise a child is not a liability in an employee. It's a necessity. And we look at the United States where maternity leave isn't even mandated. There are women going back 2 weeks after having a baby. It's unbelievable. And of course, there are countries in Europe where you get a year, 2 years, and people go, what? But that's fantastic. And then their job is waiting for them. Yeah. It's the balance of career path and family life and the fulfillment at the end of it, and what you want in your obituary. But women have paid a price for that, and I think probably will continue to. I don't know what the change will be.
Look, we look at the business world, we look at the big wide world, and I would say that it rings so true right now more than ever that everybody should be very much should be recognized on a very even playing field, and that could be male, female, that could be however you identify, that could be race, that could be religion. We are in a world now where as we stated, right, you can be anywhere to work, you can do anything you want. The window is here. Everybody's the same. And that's really the way we need to be operating. And when we look at the women in workforce, and like I say, I know a lot of very powerful, amazing females in our industry specifically that are killing it out there. And I mean in a good way. It's interesting too. You bring up the Brené Brown. This is sort of kind of going to a different spot here, but there was that point that she made about communication where she had told a story where she was in a bathing suit and she was swimming with her husband. Oh, and I listened to that story.
I'm telling myself.
Wow. And I went, oh my God, exactly.
Yeah.
And I just had that conversation.
I can't tell you how often. Yeah.
I just had that conversation with somebody
Keep going.
This morning.
Sorry, David.
No, it's okay. I had the conversation with somebody this morning, somebody the other day, not about the Brené Brown, but about the fact that we tell ourselves stories, and we make up stuff in our head, and you almost take it back to fear, right? Fear is just a bullshit action that hasn't happened yet, that we make up in our minds, right? About something that like isn't even true. We start to be scared about these things. And I just, anyways, you brought that up, and it took me right back to that whole thing about communication and how important it is to really share and be able to tell people. And if you're locked in that mind space, find somebody to talk to, even if it's a friend, a family member. Just write it down on paper if you have to, and just let it out.
Yes. And we will tell you that it's on Netflix. It's called A Call to Courage. It's about 90 minutes long. It's half stand up. This woman is, she's amazing. She kind of looks like Elizabeth Warren, and she's got a bit of a Texas twang, and she is proud of her Texas, but she is she's my spirit animal, Brene Brown. And one of the things, David, that she said, and further to the stories we tell ourselves, is, if you were driving along, you're driving your car, you're on the Don Valley, traffic's not moving, and somebody next to you is saying, "You're so stupid. Why didn't you leave a half hour earlier? You knew this was going to happen, but you had to have that extra coffee. You could have taken the Bayview extension. What is wrong with you?" You would be tempted to pull that car over, signaling carefully, of course, and let that person out of the car and say, "Get out, stay out. I am not driving you anymore." Why do we let that person in the car be us? Why do we let that voice in our car? And, the things I say to myself, if anybody else said it to me, I am telling you that, well, I wouldn't be very nice, and I would hope they'd still like me. But you know what? Just get out. And that's that. And I'm being so careful with my language here. You see, there is a sign behind me for folks who are listening that has expletives on it. And I don't use that sign very often, but I love it because that too is sort of my family crest. But you know what I mean? Too often we let that person drive the car, and it's insane. Those voices from your critics, the people who wouldn't dare try what you're doing. They wouldn't in a million years. People could leave comments for you, David. And I'm not saying that they should or would, but you host a podcast because I would love to listen to it and see how you do. All right. Get in that arena. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, again, I'll right back to this thing. We've got a lot of keyboard tough guys these days. And I'll bring that one up because you know what? And this is not a knock on people. This is but to say that even when I'm watching with the kids, our children that are going through virtual schooling right now, that yes, they would go through the BS at school in the schoolyard. We all went through it, and kids will go through it forever. But now what's happening is everybody has a voice, and it's not just the kids. Yeah. It's everybody. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to social medias, and it comes to, again, the thoughts that we have in our mind and how we carry ourselves and whether we do or don't pick up that phone first thing in the morning, these are all things that affect the mindset. And again, the mindset affects what we do in a day and how productive we are. Now, again, because I want to talk mindset, I want to do it off the heels of something else here, but I want to go back for a second on this thing of being a woman in business and how you got your break. And kind of bring this back now when we say to agents and knowing who our audience is in the real estate industry right now, but agents that are, working to build their brand and no matter what stage of the career they're at, what advice can we share with everyone to help them really make a name for themselves? Is it, and this is, I kind of preluded to this before, but is it about branding? Is it about relationships? Is it a mix of both? What's the key to really building up your name and connecting with, again, what we want to maybe call like the right people?
For me, David, it's always been word of mouth. And that is quite literally because the words come out of my mouth. And if people like them, they'll tell people to listen to my show on the radio back for those years, or watch my vlog, or read my journal, or whatever. Always been word of mouth. And to me, there's nothing more true in real estate than having someone recommend a realtor. And this will be no revelation to anyone, but I can, through our lives, I can tell you how many people we have recommended to others or had recommended to us. And that means more than anything. I mean, when I have people who write to me and say, what is that lip color you're using, or whatever, and my folks do that, and I love it. And I'll say, okay, it's this Maybelline, it's super stay, it's dry matte, and it will stay. And this isn't a plug. It really does. And then they'll get back to me and say, yeah, I bought it. It was on sale at Shoppers. Thank you. It's the silly things like that. And it's why sometimes celebrity endorsements can work if they trust you, but they can go sideways if it's somebody who just, will plug anything. But it's where it's coming from, and it's the word of mouth. And when you've done well for a client, ask them to share that. Don't be afraid. I mean, we had a house transaction. We bought this place we're in on Vancouver Island now 5 years ago. And recently the agent who had the transaction with us wrote and said, hey, I've got a new website. Would you mind? And I thought, yeah, why not? I'm going to do that. I have great memories of how it all went down and what a gentleman you were. And it felt good. So don't be afraid to go back to people who didn't get around to posting on Rank My Agent, or didn't get around to getting to, because the world was upside down. They were moving. That's one of the best pieces of advice from Rank My Agent is go back and then go back again. Now, don't be a pain in the ass, but just nudge, because we all need a nudge, and you go, yeah, I'll do it. And then life happens. The kids come home with a cough and you think it's the worst. So just, gently nudge, because it is that personal endorsement, that personal connection and reference that to me means more than anything in the world.
But that holds true, obviously, not just in the world of real estate. You're using this on a much bigger level, obviously. I mean, we've used, obviously, agents as an example right now, but that was the importance of the question for me to you, having, I guess, you're in the real estate industry, hosting the podcast, Gria, and obviously very in tune with what's going on, but not having sold real estate per se. How did you do it? What did you do? What do you know about it? And it's amazing because you've really said, I don't want to say the same thing as everybody else says, but what we know when it comes to its relationship, it's talking to people. I love the fact that you brought up the whole thing about if somebody's asking the lip color, and I say this seriously, that you go back and respond to them. Because now it's a conversation with people. And that actually takes me into this, where I go, 25, never mind even 25, like 16 years ago, this guy named Mark Zuckerberg came out of nowhere and came up with something about Facebook. Yeah, remember that back in the day?
I think so. It was meant to rate girls, wasn't it? So he could maybe get laid.
I don't know. I don't know. But he did okay, I heard. I heard he did well.
Yeah, he got laid at least once.
So, with that, we looked at that world of social media though, and, it wasn't around, again, call it 17 years ago. Today though, it's almost like the be all and end all of connecting with other people. We will go there to your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Instagram, before we go to your website to learn more about who you are, to see if you're genuine. And I mean, again, I kind of bring this right up because you bring up the thing of answering somebody about lipstick. We talk always about relationships. When we look at social media, there's something to be said about, again, the perception that you have out there, how people see you. Are you communicating? Are you creating those conversations with others? It's all about engagement. So I guess the first question becomes, do you use it? I know you mentioned something about Twitter, and I know you're on Twitter, right? Yeah. And then I saw Instagram or Facebook. I think both of them. Facebook probably a little bit more. The page is like 16,000 people.
Oh yeah,
which is amazing. So, have you got a favorite platform? And maybe what have you taken away from the whole thing of social, of not having it from before, but now looking at it and going, well, what am I going to use it for? How am I going to use it the right way?
Oh,
what's your take?
God, yeah. Well, my career I've been there literally for the birth of all of these things. Yeah. And I love Twitter right from the get-go because it made me be pithy in a brief amount of time, get that thought down to as few words as possible, which was really kind of the mantra in music radio. You've got a minute and a half for a break, make it matter. Get your point out. Facebook, I'll get to Facebook last. Instagram was described to me by someone as Twitter for people who go outside, which is really a great way to do it because it was usually just, scenery shots or this is me at a restaurant or something like that. Instagram has become something else. I use IGTV to put out my vlog twice a week as well. I use it as an additional platform, but I also use it in a daily way to put out a message that I think reflects who I am, whether it's, linking to something about the witness blanket to bring awareness to the Indigenous schools, the residential schools, or something lighter like, hey, June, welcome, please be gentle, or things like that. It reinforces who I want to be out there, which fortunately is who I am inside, because it's much easier when you're being authentic all the time. The truth is so much easier. Facebook, love, hate. I hate what it has done to our conversations and our political discord, and that has become a platform for so much misinformation and outright disinformation, where somebody can pose as a letter of the alphabet and change the entire political trajectory of a country or countries. It's horrendously scary. I like it because it is that place where people who have a common sort of a thread or interest, which in this case would be in what I have to say or my career or, me, not to sound too...
Oh, no, it's true.
It's the opposite of humble, braggadocious. Yeah. But we're all kind of the same. And when someone has been referred there or come through someone else and they come and they start being nasty, I go, you're not from here. You get a chance to make it right, or I'm going to block you because this is my playground and I love you, kitty, but don't poop in it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's Facebook really truly is a love-hate. And I love that, you and I promoted this on Facebook today, and there's so many great things that it can do. And then, okay, so Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, I'm kind of getting into.
I was going to ask you, are you a TikToker? Are you into it?
Trying. It's one more bell to answer for me. It's like, oh God, no, not another thing. Yeah. But with Drift coming up, the people at Frequency who are hosting the podcast for Apple, they say, okay, let's get some TikTok videos out there and, just say, get in your jammies and say, here's what tonight's sleep story is going to be. I'm up for that. We can do that. So I'm going to use these things, but I'm not going to waste your time. I want this content to be valuable to you. I don't want it to be the same stuff you can get everywhere else. Mm-hmm. It's got to have a little bit of me in it or from, behind it. So that to me is how you use social media best. The landmine that your friend referred to in the phone is where you run into with, if you're a professional person. I have seen MAGA tweets from a Vancouver real estate agent, and I thought, I wouldn't trust you to dog sit, never mind, sell my house if you've got judgment like that. So if you've got political or really hot topic opinions, think twice and then don't do it, because there are people like me who are Googling your name or finding out more about you. And I go, what? Never. Yeah. So that's my little Twitter and social media diatribe. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. Perception is reality. And as much as, we were always taught, never judge a book by its cover, people judge a book by its cover. And if somebody's going to
they don't even read it. They don't go past, they don't go past the blurb.
That's
no.
Right. And so this is where the rule of thumb is no religion, no politics, and quite frankly, no COVID. Stay away. Right. Go there and be you. And I love what you said there about putting some of you, or at least you, are behind it. Yesterday, I saw one of I saw a lot of posts that came out from a variety of different people. They were all identical and no names. Everybody knows who. But it was an automated post that was done from, call it the big center, for lots and lots of people. And now you're scrolling and you're seeing everybody's got the exact same thing. And you're like,
oh,
there's nothing genuine about it. It hasn't got me in it. Even my team, Aaron, my team goes, Dave, for the amount of content that we've got to put out, you've always want to be like, you always want to be in charge of the content. I'm like, guys, that's what we do. That's what we do. Do you understand? Like, I can't have somebody else doing the content. It won't be me and us and have that behind it. So the authenticity. I love the fact that you brought that up. I thought that was really, really important.
Yeah.
And again, I wanted to ask the question.
I want to bring up something that was, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Because your Facebook feed said something that's really intriguing me. And I've thought about this and I wanted to have this conversation with you. And you said, someone posting for you is like sending someone in your place to a party.
You like that?
And I've been thinking about that a lot. I have never, ever, ever, ever allowed anyone to post for me because, like you said, this is you. It's not just your brand. It's It's not just your office. This is you. This is me. This is how it's going to be. However, it is so important to have that social media presence that if you have someone on your team who is like, if you are, say, a 50-year-old phenom in the business and you simply don't have time to be clicking out a message in between showings or whatever, if you have that person you can trust with your message and who loves social media, then would it not be a mistake to overlook their ability and availability for you and to trust them with that? What do you think? Can we delegate something like this if we just can't do it, but know the importance of it?
Well, how about this? And so a great question. First, when we look at growth in business and we look at growth in personal success, you've got to delegate. So many people are scared to bring on a team member, to bring on a new employee, to grow because they're scared. Is it gonna net the fruit that I need it to net in a quick enough time to be able to give me the ROI and be able to actually afford this thing? I don't know if it's going to help. And one thing we do know, and for those of us that have done, when you do begin to bring on your team members and you do begin to grow that and you do begin to delegate, you start to free up more time for you to focus on certain things. Well, as you grow, the amount of things need to be delegated, well, they grow too. And part of that becomes social media. And so I will say I love the question here because this is part of the struggle that we have as an organization is saying, if David's always in charge of pressing the button, at some point, we're going to run out of time, period. Much the same.
Right.
When my grandmother passed away a month ago or so, I went dark for probably
my condolences to you.
Thank you. I went dark for about 24 to 48 hours. And I said to the team after, I go, we cannot go dark ever again like that. Now, that's not on them, but that's me trying to figure out how do you make it work. So I will say this. If you want to have somebody post on your behalf, here's the answer to that long-winded sort of answer. If you want to have somebody post on your behalf, the idea behind it becomes, okay, you come up with your content, you give it your spice and flavor, and then say, okay, here it is. And let's use a week, for example, right? I'm going to prepare my content for the next week. I'm going to look at all the things that I can possibly post and all the staple things that have to be put up, as well as a lot of the randomness that just comes out of my head. And I just go, oh, let me put it up there. Well, let me try to take those moments, wrap them into a sort of 2-hour chunk of time on one evening. Let me pre-plan myself for the next 5, 6, 7 days. Once it's been pre-planned and I've given it my flavor, sure. Somebody else click the button because I'm out doing something else. Wonderful. Click the button. But I wrote it. I'm the guy. So the emails that people get, the social media people get, it's my words, my writing. And people, if they're tuned into even the podcast, could turn around and go, yeah, that's the way he talks. That's him for sure. As long as it's got that, I'm good. And I am with you on the delegation part, right? So the whole thing about having somebody post on your behalf is like having somebody go to a party for you. Is if you don't have any organic game at all, meaning you're not even on these platforms, you're not engaging, you're not wishing people happy birthday and connecting with people on stories and their feed and just, nice puppy or whatever. If you're not doing any of that stuff, but all of a sudden you think you're going to go hire this person over here to spend or you're going to spend a whole bunch of money, hire them, and they're going to post on your behalf that all of a sudden your social media is just going to begin to grow. That is the wrong thinking. Because we're going to smell that from a mile away. And that's where my whole thing about going to a party for you. Again, you just wouldn't send somebody to a party for you, right? And if you did, they better look like you, walk like you, and talk like you. Otherwise, why are they here?
You do bring up something with scheduled tweets. Scheduled tweets can be a landmine as well. And we all know, like if you decide that you're going to go off for a week to a place there are still places without internet, or you're in a retreat or rehab or whatever. And that's me, not you. I'll own the rehab thing. Did that a couple summers ago. But if you schedule tweets and something horrific happens, then you look so tone deaf. And I recall there was a scheduled tweet. There was a big concert at Downsview in Toronto a couple of years ago, and somebody died on stage because of electrocution. And I don't know who the organizers were, but the tweet was up there. They were still coming, saying, hey, come on down. We're rocking the stage. It's like, no! Whoever it is that you hired to do your social media, tell them to get up and stop that. So there is that. There is very much that little landmine. And when something like Orange Lives Matter, or Every Child Matters, with the residential school story that came out last week and now has just it has taken over, as well it should, then do not be tone deaf. And it can appear to be tone deaf. If you're posting about something that is like, oh, my kid hates school so much, or something, so ridiculously benign that just hits wrong at the time. Well, so that's my 2 cents about scheduled tweets.
That happened to me the other day. This must have been maybe game 4, game 5. And in between, there was a commercial that was run. I know I'm bringing it up. I'm sorry. It was a commercial that was run.
Okay.
And it was talking about apparel. And go figure, it just so happened to be, and this must have been game 5, it just so happened to be that there was a Leafs and a Winnipeg Jets logo next to each other when they were talking about apparel. So somebody had kind of, you know what I'm saying? Somebody kind of jumped the gun a little bit and just, anyhow, to kind of play off of what you were saying. But tell me this then. So when we talk about messaging and frequency, and we talk about just being out there, there's a lot of concern from just folks who ask the question and say, well, what about overexposure? Like, I don't want to be there too many times. You are like marketing, advertising, you are radio and television, you are broadcast. Please, what is your take on frequency? Does overexposure really exist? Or should we be like, repeat, and then when you're done repeating, do it again? What's your take?
Oh, the person really to ask about this is someone like Terry O'Reilly, the marketing guru and host of the CBC podcast. Tell me the name of it, Rob. Under the Influence. Thank you. Because he is. Oh my God, he is a gold mine, a treasure trove. He was our very first guest on the Korea Real Time podcast. And please, if me mentioning other podcasts on your podcast is gauche, I understand.
At all.
Okay, thank you.
No, this is great.
This is kind of new territory for me, because I would freaking hate when a listener would write and say, oh yeah, I wrote to another radio station and I wrote to you and I'm really looking for, a bike for my kid for Christmas. Can you help? And I thought, okay, so you're not really loyal. But anyway.
No, not at all. Not at all.
The question of overexposure, I'm always ready for that mean person in the passenger seat of my car to say, oh, would you just stop promoting yourself? And so I don't. When I got the Hall of Fame award a couple of weeks ago, I posted a blog about it.
By the way, that is so
thank
cool.
you. Thank you. I had to slip that in. Did you notice? No. But when I got it, I thought, well, no, but it is germane to the conversation, I promise you. That I was worried that, mentioning it, I surrounded it with a very funny story of waiting for the FedEx truck, all made up like some sad Cinderella, and the award never arrived, and I had to shoot my thank you. And it turned into a story that was just classically me. So it turned into something about me for them, something everybody can relate to. Who can't relate to waiting for the FedEx truck that doesn't come in 2021, right? So what's in it for them? Remember that when you are promoting yourself, make it about them. What do you need? What can I do for you? This isn't like, I won this award, but yeah, I do want to know that you won an award. But my team and I won this award, and we really want to show you what we're about. Because no matter how many awards we win, it'll only matter if you're happy at the end of the sale. Something like that really does touch someone and makes them go, yeah, okay, I don't care if you've got an Oscar. I just want you to come over here and do the best job you can, because that statue you've got isn't going to sell my house. Mm-hmm. The right buyer will. And whatever you can bring your magic to. So the long answer is, yes, I think you can overexpose, but reminders and being out there in a charitable way is so important. I remember any agent that I've had a great exchange with. You mentioned Markham Stillville Hospital off the top. Thank you. Vivian Reese in the York Region Realty. She's at every event for Markham Stillville for breast cancer. She gives, and she is there in attendance, and her family, her daughter, their agents as well, their realtors. It matters because she's in my community. And I thought, you know what, you put your skin in the game. So I'm going to ask you to come and My game is selling my house and hopefully making some money with someone who cares. I know you care because you were there. So
that's good.
It matters.
It does matter. And I think there's a fine line between the complete overexposure and then what is it that you're doing. And I love what you brought up about what's in it for them. I recently told a story about that as well. We were doing an ad for a conference, and my team put this whole thing together, and it looked amazing. But as I read through it, I thought, oh my God, it's telling you all about what we do and who we are and everything else. We are completely missing the mark right now, right? So you do all that, but what about me? There's the answer.
Yes.
Love that you brought that up.
Yeah. What's in it for the listener has always been the mantra for me, and a huge key to whatever success I may have had. Turn it around. Not like I did this, I did that. It's more like, has this ever happened to you? I'm waiting here for this biggest moment, this award for my life, and the FedEx truck didn't show up. I mean, so you turn it around and right away they're engaged because they're going, it didn't. But you know what? My sister had something happen just like that. And you've got them. Yep. Right?
Yep. So I want to move ahead to this topic here because last week I had, or 2 weeks ago, I had a mindset performance coach on the show, and she was spectacular. And I thought it was important because even to what we've talked about earlier on in today's show about, mindset and again, morning routine and waking up the right way and just, staying focused and relationships and confidence and all this other stuff. I mean, the keyboard tough guys. We've been going through crazy times over the past 15 months, a ton of uncertainty, a ton of unknowns. It's taken a hit on people. And
yes,
we're operating in a different capacity. Many people are struggling. They're struggling with anxiety. They're struggling with depression. They're having to cope with all of this stuff on their own, or maybe just choosing to because we don't want to drop our guard. We don't want to show the world that we're struggling. But back in May 2015, you experienced a devastating, life-changing moment with the loss of Lord. And I cannot imagine how hard that was and how hard it is still now to deal with, Aaron. And as I read that in your bio in preparation for today, my heart completely sank. And as I don't believe that we ever move past something like this, I do just want to say I'm very, very sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I really am. And you wrote a book about this, your memoir. You wrote Mourning Has Broken, Love, Loss, and Reclaiming Joy, released back in 2019 to critical acclaim, became a bestseller, finished in the year top 10 nonfiction. And I guess I want to touch on this topic today because as we know, unfortunately, again, many people are suffering with their own struggles right now. And I really take it upon me and our Mindshare channel to be able to, what can we do to help? I want to help somebody. I want to help one person today. If we can help more than that, wonderful. But can you share with us, when it comes to managing grief, it comes to managing loss, depression, anxiety, how do you cope? More specifically, what steps can anybody take to manage these feelings?
That is a great question. And while we are starting to talk about how to cope, I think that it's important that people realize that we are all going through something right now. We are all just starting to see a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And there's this amazing fellow that I follow on the socials, and he put it perfectly. And I'm going to share this with you. His name is John Pavlovitz, and he says, "We are all carrying around the grief of the lives we thought we would be living right now, continually mourning our missed events, our changed plans, our what might have been year." And I think that's so profound because you don't have to have lost someone as you did your grandmother, as we did our daughter. It can be anything. It can be the wedding that you were hoping for your child or for yourself. It can be anything. And we are all going through it. And I will say with grief, David, that you never get over it. You just get through it. Mm-hmm. And the way to get through it is by talking to someone. We were so fortunate, Rob and I. We had this community of listeners, of kind strangers who wrap their arms around us in the most virtual but meaningful of ways. And they really helped me to get back on my feet and get back on the air a month later, when I wasn't sure at one point whether we were going to be able to do that, whether I was ever going to do this again, whether I could laugh again. But we also had cognitive behavioral therapy. We were able to take things and look at them a different way, come to the realization that it always had to be this way. And that was through a book called Journey of Souls, which is amazing. Dr. Michael Newton, Journey of Souls. And it helped us in a way that I don't think any other book could have at the time. But talking to someone, find someone who understands your grief and someone who will ask you that day, how are you today? And then listen, because listening is it's an incredibly important element of healing. Being able to talk about it when you want to, say the name of the person who has gone. If that lands softly with the person who's lost, then say their name, because you're not going to remind me my daughter has died. We know that, and it will be in the forefront of our minds the rest of our lives. It's just etched there on our broken hearts. But when you say her name, it's a gift to us. You tell us a little something about her that you remember that maybe we didn't know. And it's just like, oh, thank you. We got that little feather, that little God wink. Thank you so much for that. 2 words never to use to someone who is in grief are at least. We heard this after Lauren died. At least she didn't suffer. At least you still have a husband. At least she wasn't carrying Colin when her heart stopped. At least she left you a grandson. I've said that. But we got these at leasts, David. The at leasts are for those of us who grieve to say. You might say, at least my grandmother lived to this age, at least this. But those 2 words that people just say to try and make you feel better are the most damaging ones, because they belong to us. It's up to us to count our blessings in this. Your job is not to make us feel better. It's to listen and to understand what, and if you don't have the words, just say, I have no words. That meant more to us than anything, because we would say, that's okay. There are no words. No one expects you to be a papyrus card in that moment. They don't expect you to come up with Yeats or Shakespeare in that second that's going to make everything better, because nothing can make it better. Don't you see?
No. Just
listening, that means everything. So there you go.
You say that with the words at least, and I think back to about a day to 2 days before my grandmother passed, and I was talking to somebody, and I made comment to the fact of, and they actually said something along those lines. And inside of me, I got furious.
Yeah.
And I didn't express it. I might have slightly, but I didn't do what was inside of me. But there was that thought of like, what you just said and how you just said that says that you don't really care about what I just said to you. You didn't really take it in and come back with something at all comforting.
Right.
And I'm never going to forget this conversation that you just brought that up, because I don't know that I was able to put my finger on it when it happened that day.
Right.
But you've just helped me put my finger on that. Thank you for that. It's interesting. It's we had, you may know him, Chris Voss, FBI lead negotiator, wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. And he was on the show some time ago. And he had taught us, and he taught us this in his book, and I watched him do a keynote, and he talked about it there, but we got to really banter about it a little bit here too. And not to compare, just to bring up again these words, and you just said it too, about asking, how are you? He says, we're dealing with hostage negotiations. Somebody's child has been taken away, and he says he one day had a negotiator working for him that called the family and said, how are you? And he goes, you can't ask them how they are. How do you think they are? And if you can ask that question and not listen to the answer, then don't ever ask that question again.
Right. How do you think they are? Exactly.
And I thought to myself, and I go, forget about even the severity of the situations, but even in a normal day to day, when you ask somebody how they're doing, if you care, ask. If you don't care, don't ask.
Right.
It's little words. that we pick up on that sit there in our minds. And now it's, what was it that burned me, or what was it that comforted me? And so at least that's
yes,
that one will stick with me, Erin.
All right.
Certainly stick
there's also just a slight postscript to that. And it is, if you have a religious faith, make sure that the person that you are consoling shares your faith. God needed another angel was my automatic inner response was a throat punch. Her baby needed his mother. Don't you tell me God needed another angel, or she's in a better place. No, pretty sure the nursery was the best place.
Yeah.
Or God cried first. What the hell does that even mean? But these are things that for some people, it is the kindest thing they can say. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. So I never got angry. I just thought, I know you're doing the best you can in this moment. And I, as a public figure, I got used to people saying wildly inappropriate things when they met me, like, oh, you're so tall, or get this, you're so better looking in person. Yeah, that one stinks.
Yeah. Right?
So, I got used to that stuff, David, but anything I can do, and that's what the book is all about, is just sort of opening up the language of loss.
Where can people get the book? I wanted to ask you about that. Where can people?
Oh, thanks for asking. Amazon.ca.
Cool.
It was in bookstores, Indigo and Independence and stuff. But I think, the hardcover came out 2 years ago, as you mentioned, the soft cover last year. So you may still find it. I think it's in self-help, but I'm not sure. And whenever I find it, I always move it to the front.
Yeah, of course.
Who else is going to do it? Yeah, right. That's the self-promotion. What am I going to do? Wait for Don Winslow to move his book and put mine there? Or Michelle Obama? Can you believe it? She kept me out of number one in Canada. And so here's a funny story. We're in Indigo, and Rob and I are walking by, and my book is like front and center, number one, all this. So cool. And my husband goes, I'm sleeping with her, to no one in particular. And I said, do you think Barack Obama goes into bookstores and does that? Stop it. Honest to God. But I love him.
That is good. Well, okay, so we got the book that's available, and I want to encourage everybody, go and get the book. Again, Mourning Has Broken, Love, Loss, and Reclaiming Joy. So make sure you can go and do that. And then we talked about the podcast off the top called Drift. But as we were doing that, and you and I just having our own one-on-ones. You shared a line with me, which I'm going to leave to you because you said you're going to bring it up. So, it's all you.
Yeah. Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. And it's got so many stories, but I think it's at least 100 years old. So public domain, I'm taking it. And I'll share it with you, David. We'll say that, you and I came up with that. No, seriously, it just sums it all up. Early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. You can have the best podcast. You can have the best radio show. You can be the best realtor who's got all the secrets, all the tips. But if nobody knows about it, you're whistling in the wind, singing at the bottom of the swimming pool. It's just like, what's the point? What is the point?
Okay, so now your keynote specifically talks to reclaiming joy. Now this has got to be, and everybody knows, but this is we're at this point in the show, people. This is like my favorite question.
Okay,
how do you know it has been a successful day for you?
At the end of the day, I have. And this is going to sound so candy-coated, but I've made somebody else's day better. I've answered an email from someone who's struggling with addiction, or someone who has just, again, word to God in my messenger today, one of our twin daughters died. I need to talk with you about how to get through it. When I answer that, when I call them, and we have had a long discussion, and I've said, this worked for me, I'm not telling you what to do, then that has been a successful day. I've gotten some work done. I've gotten some editing done. We've ideally spent time with our grandson, who is now 6, and through a miracle has moved with his family from Ottawa to within a 6-minute drive of our house on Vancouver Island. That's pretty much my perfect day. That's when I know, 10,000 steps, that's the icing on the cake. Probably not going to happen, but some sort of physical activity. And don't say Leafs win, Rob. That's so pathetic. You need to let it go. Let it go.
Why do we have to keep bringing this up?
I know. Oh, I wish we had it in here, but honest to God, our grandson used a marker on a big blue balloon, Toronto Maple Leafs. We found it last night in the corner of the room, and it was the size of a softball. And I went, well, doesn't that just say everything?
Yeah, doesn't that say it all, right?
I know, but is it better to have loved and lost and had a great season of fun watching the scoreboard and stuff and then get kicked, or just get kicked in that one last period with Boston? I don't know. With the Leafs fan, you pick your poison. It's just go Jets.
The poison is the jersey. The poison is the jersey. As much as I and everybody knows how much I bleed blue and white. I just want you to know that question about success and I don't know if you feel that you simplified the answer by using the word help. But I will say to you that is the common theme from any one that I know that I've asked the question to, that I've learned from, that I've mentored from, that I've listened to books from. Anybody who's hit the level of success that you have, everybody uses that 4-letter word as help. And that is how they sum up success. So that's why it's my favorite question, because it's amazing how typically in life, everybody judges success, especially in a real estate world, a sales world, a business world, by deals and by money and that. And how when you talk to the best of the best, it really comes back to how did you help somebody else today? So I loved your answer. As we sign off here, what last words or tips can we share, or would you like to just say to anybody who's tuned in, to our audience to just help themselves get out there, be better in every aspect of life and build that mind share?
Don't listen to the voices. Don't listen to the voices. Like Brene Brown said, the call to courage, you're the one in the ring who's going to get bloody. You're going to get beaten. You're going to fail. But it's only the champions who get up and keep trying, not the people in the stands who are yelling at you and giving you thumbs down. You're the one. And failure, if you lose, don't lose the lesson. The best things happen to me no, I won't say that because our daughter's death changes the trajectory of that statement. But it was through being fired that I found my best radio partner ever and went on to the incredible trajectory of our career and how it all wrapped up on my terms. So don't look at failure as the end. The world is round, and that which may seem like an end is also the beginning. And it's just, and I just keep spouting these witticisms, but I believe them all, that when one door closes, another one opens, but it's hell in the hallways, and it is. And you need to acknowledge that hell and then work your way through it, because it is going to make you better and stronger. And if you think you have a problem drinking, you probably do. AA has meetings online all the freaking time. There, I got that in.
Erin, this has been absolutely amazing. Where can people go to connect with you, find you, just tune more into you? We've talked about the book. We've talked about the podcast. There's so much amazingness that you're bringing to the table. Just where should we direct everybody?
Oh, I don't know. Leave me alone. No. I've said it all. Okay. Easiest place. Thank you for asking, David. ErinDavis.com, ErinDavis. Facebook is facebook.com/Erin Davis page. That's really kind of the hub for everything. And all the rest, they're all there. It's all there. But thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I love that you've done your research and you've asked questions that weren't just on the page, but off from your heart. And I really enjoyed that, David. And this is going to be great. You're going to get right up there in the rankings, and we will celebrate together virtually. You're doing great.
Thank you. Those words mean a lot coming from you. I thank you very, very, very much for the insights, for the amazing conversation today, and of course for your time in sharing with us. So thank you once again for being my guest on the Mindshare podcast.
It was mind pleasure.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshow101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content counter to help you build more mind share so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call to learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, well, how I will help you do just that. Also, don't forget that our push to 100 is on. So be sure to please go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, rate us, and leave a review. And of course, if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at MindShow101 and on Instagram at DavidGreenspan101. I want to once again thank Kits Keep in Touch Systems for also sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshow101.com, and click on marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.